On this episode of The Writing of God, I went out to the Bible Seminary in Katy, Texas, near Houston, founded in 1996 by Dr. Jim Leggett. There, they have the Joshua, Judges, and Jesus Museum, also known as the 3J, officially opened on March 10th, 2022, to showcase artifacts found during the archaeological work of the Associates for Biblical Research at the site of Kirbet el-Makadir, the biblical city of Ai, mentioned in chapters 7 and 8 in the book of Joshua. Many of the artifacts were excavated by Dr. Scott Stripling, Director of Excavations for the Associates for Biblical Research, and his students enrolled in the archaeology program at the Bible Seminary in Katy, Texas. Today I have the distinct pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Scott Stripling to talk about some of their amazing discoveries using a revolutionary excavating technique called wet sifting. Wet sifting multiplies the number of small artifacts found and unveil the historical story of the site. What they have unearthed so far has truly helped to reveal the ancient history of the city of Ai and bring the reality of the biblical story of the Exodus back to life. I'm Dr. Miles Jones. Welcome to the series, The Writing of God. Very excited today because we have Dr. Scott Stripling with us, who did the amazing discovery of the inscriptions on the lead tablets at Mount Ebal. So, Scott, I'm really pleased to be here with you.
Thank you for coming.
It's a privilege. You've done a wonderful work.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to have done it.
So what got you started on the road to archaeology in the first place?
I was a Bible reader and trying to understand the background of the biblical text, grappling with difficult passages, and I felt like it had to do with lack of understanding of material culture. That led me into a study of material culture, and ultimately I started volunteering on archaeological digs and got involved in graduate research and so forth. And
so where did you do your training?
Well, it's a long road. Tarleton State University, University of Texas, Assemblies of God.
My alma mater.
Hey, all right. Assemblies of God Theological Seminary, and then Veritas International University.
And how'd you get hooked up with the Associates for Biblical Research?
Well, through common friends, I became aware of what ABR was doing. I was in shock that I didn't already know about them, because here were people who believed that the Bible was a reliable historical source. They were doing good archaeology in the land of the Bible.
They were. Bryant Wood did the discovery of Ai.
Sure.
And that was when he was with the ABR.
Absolutely. In fact, I finished that excavation. I took over for Bryant as the director of excavations, and spent a lot of time at Kirbet el-Makadir.
Wow. That's wonderful. So that got you into ABR, which got you to your excavation at Shiloh, right?
Right. So in 2017, we launched a new dig at Shiloh, and we're about to do season 4 right now. And we're right in the middle of this tabernacle matrix. So it's a very, very exciting project and process.
So how did you end up sifting through the diggings at the discovery of Joshua's altar on Mount Ebal?
I had become a big believer in wet sifting many years ago when I was a supervisor on the Temple Mount Sifting project in Jerusalem. And I made up my mind then that when I had the opportunity to have water at a site, that I was going to become the first to wet sift everything in the field in situ, so that we knew where the material was coming from, so that it could actually aid us in the dating process. So that's what we started doing at Shiloh, and it's been revolutionary. So I came up with a project idea that I thought I would do with my students in the off season. We would go back to 2 old dump piles from the 1980s and wet sift them. And we knew what the archaeologists had published, and then we would see what we found and compare.
So that would be Adam Zertal. Is he the one who discovered the Joshua's altar?
It was Zertal's dump pile was one that I wanted to check, and then the other was Finkelstein's dump pile at Shiloh from the 1980s. And so that's what we did.
So this was just sort of experiment with your graduate students?
That's exactly what it was. I knew what we would find is that I knew we were going to find more in the dump pile than what they had published, because we had already sampled some old dump piles, and like for every 1 scarab we used to find, we're now finding 4.
Wow.
And for every one bula we used to find, we're now finding 4. So I knew that archaeologists unintentionally were throwing away the majority of the evidence of small finds in the past.
The majority.
Like 75%.
Well, yeah,
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, 4 times the scarabs. And those are really important in dating your sites.
That's right. If you get them in context.
Yes,
so
right.
once they're thrown into the dump pile, they have very little value. So that was the goal of the
Need to know what
project.
level they come from.
That's
Or
right.
maybe now they're starting to sort their dump piles into
Well, I hope
levels.
that as a result of this project, that a lot of people will reconsider how they're doing what they're doing.
Well, that's amazing. That's an amazing new procedure. That's fabulous. So you took it over to Mount Ebal and you started to sift their dump pile. What did you find there?
Well, I would have to say that Adams Reptiles dump pile was pretty clean so far as old dump piles go, but there's no way that dry sifting you can find everything. And so we found about 268 diagnostic pottery sherds, rims, handles, bases. We found diagnostic flints. We found the tablet, of course, itself.
And now, how big was the tablet?
Let me finish this thought.
Go ahead.
And then we found metal objects, probably styli for writing, and other metal objects, blades and so forth as well. Now, what was your question that you were asking?
Well, how big was the lead tablet?
The lead tablet is about 2 by 2 centimeters folded. So if you were to unfold it, it would have originally been 4 by 2.
So 2 by 2 centimeters is...
Yeah, it would fit in a quarter of the palm of my hand.
A quarter of the palm of your hand.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was small.
Do you think it was like an amulet that hung around the neck, something of that sort?
No, I don't think so. I don't personally use the term amulet, although I know a lot of others have. I prefer the term defixio, a curse tablet, which is a very specific thing.
It is, yes.
Um,
Well, I'm thinking of the silver scroll, which they found rolled up, and
mhm.
but you had a different problem, did you not?
Yeah, well, you were asking me if I thought it was an amulet. I did not. I thought it was a very specific thing, and when I saw it, I knew that it was a cursed tablet
How did you know?
because I've seen hundreds of them.
You have.
It's a known quantity. The shocking thing is that here we had one on Mount Ebal,
Yeah, right.
the mountain of the curse, and
Right.
from what was believed to have been an altar of Joshua's on Mount Ebal, and here you have a cursed tablet there. That's what was shocking.
Deuteronomy 11:29. Moses said to him, "You shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal." And they actually went in, and I think half the tribes went up Mount Gerizim, half the tribes went up
Right.
Mount Ebal, and they chanted the blessings and the curses, of which there are many in the Bible. There's a whole section of them across the valley. One of the most incredible descriptions in the Bible. It's so surreal. It's just the thought that they actually did that is rather mind-blowing. But a defixio, a curse tablet, is exactly the kind of writing you would expect to find there. And it did say that Joshua set up this altar on Mount Ebal,
Right.
and there he wrote the words of the law. That doesn't necessarily mean he wrote the Ten Commandments. It means that he wrote something out of the sacred word.
Yeah, it seemed to me that this is a summary of the curses.
Yes, right.
So it's maybe titular in a sense, like one person has written this self-imprecatory or binding sort of a curse on behalf of the nation,
Right.
like a titular kind of a head.
Yes, right. It's an amazing thing, and it's in a. I think it was Gershon Galil, right, who did the translation, and Peter Van der Velde.
Peter Van der Veen and Gershon Galil are my two epigraphers in our collaboration. And they have done an excellent job of deciphering the text.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, Gershon Galil is excellent. I don't know Peter, but hope to meet him sometime. But you have a classic chiasm there.
You really do.
I mean, it's really classic. This is a classic form from Scripture.
It is really classic. Yesterday, Gershon sent me a little note, and he wrote his note to me as a chiasm to see if I picked up on it, which I did, fortunately. But yeah, it's there's no doubt there's a literary structure to it.
For our readers who may not know this, a chiasm is when you have, say, three points you're trying to get across, and you go first 1, 2, 3, you say them, and then you back out 3, 2, 1, repeating them again. So you have this structure.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, so this is an incredible, the effects of this discovery are going to be felt deep into academia.
Well, that's right.
For a number of reasons.
That's right. Would you like to explore those?
I want to explore those. We will especially want to hear, first of all, what it says.
Okay.
So, folks, after this brief break, we'll return to our interview with Dr. Scott Stripling.
Hi, I'm Scott Stripling. I'm speaking to you from the museum exhibit of Joshua, Judges, and Jesus at the Bible Seminary. Go online and schedule your tour group to come. You can do that by going to thebibleseminary.edu/3J. I hope to see you here soon at Joshua, Judges, and Jesus.